The haunted staff room. The old school stood on the edge of town, its tall brick walls casting long shadows over the neglected playground. For decades, it had been a place of learning, but recently, whispers of strange occurrences had begun to circulate among the staff. One place in particular stood out: the staff room. The staff room was tucked away in a forgotten corner of the building, its door heavy with age, creaking every time someone entered. It was an oddly cold room, despite the warmth of the rest of the school. The walls were lined with dusty bookshelves, some filled with outdated textbooks, and others empty, waiting for something that would never come. The windows were often shut tight, yet the air always felt thick, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Miss Lily Turner had been teaching English at the school for several years, and she had heard the rumors. The staff room was haunted, they said. Some of her colleagues spoke of strange sounds at night, whispers in the walls, faint footsteps when no one was there. A few had even claimed to see fleeting shadows moving past the windows. But Miss Turner, being a rational person, dismissed it all as mere superstition. That was until she was assigned late duty one evening. It was a stormy Thursday night when she found herself alone at the school, grading papers in the dimly lit classroom. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows as rain poured down in torrents. Miss Turner sighed, feeling the weight of the day's exhaustion. She decided to take a quick break and headed for the staff room, hoping the warm tea kettle would provide some comfort. When she entered, the familiar chill immediately hit her skin. The staff room was empty, its dim light flickering from a solitary bulb overhead. The room smelled faintly of old paper and something unpleasant, like mildew. Miss Turner shrugged it off and went to make her tea, but as soon as she reached for the kettle, she froze. A soft, distant whisper echoed through the room, though she could see no one. She glanced around, but the room was still and lifeless. The whispering grew louder, more distinct, as if someone were speaking just behind her. Lily. Her heart skipped a beat. She turned around quickly, but the room remained empty. Lily. The voice came again, this time unmistakably clear. It was a soft, haunting voice, though unfamiliar, like it was calling from a great distance. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice trembling despite herself. She looked around, her breath quickening. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and the light flickered wildly. The whispers turned into incoherent murmurs, echoing off the walls, until they seemed to swirl around her, pressing in from all sides. Miss Turner's skin prickled as she realized she was not alone. She backed away toward the door, but something stopped her. She looked down at the table, where a stack of old papers lay. Papers she had never seen before. They were yellowed with age, and their edges were frayed, as if they had been there for decades. A single sheet lay on top, its faded ink barely legible. The words read, "This room belongs to the forgotten. Those who linger never leave." Her mind raced. What could this mean? She had heard rumors about the school's past, how it had once been an old mansion, long before it became a place of education. There had been talk of a fire that claimed the lives of several people in the building's earliest years, including a group of teachers. But none of this had seemed relevant until now. As she stood there, the feeling of being watched intensified, like 1,000 unseen eyes were staring directly at her. Suddenly, the room felt even colder. The walls seemed to close in, and the whispers grew louder, more urgent. "Leave! Leave now!" The voices came from all directions now, layered and overlapping, as if dozens of spirits were speaking in unison. She turned to the door, desperate to escape, but it had become stuck. Her heart raced. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she pulled at the handle, but the door refused to budge. The light above her flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. A cold breeze blew through the cracks in the windows, making the papers on the table flutter. In that instant, she felt a presence, something that wasn't human. It was as though the room itself was alive, aware of her every movement. Just as she was about to scream for help, the softest sound emerged from the corner of the room. It was a slow, deliberate creak, like someone shifting their weight, but there was no one there. Slowly, she turned to the source of the sound. Her breath hitched when she saw it. A shadowy figure stood in the far corner of the room, just at the edge of the dim light. It was tall and slender, with no features, just a dark silhouette. The figure's presence was almost suffocating, as though it was absorbing the very air around it. As Miss Turner's gaze locked with the shadow, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The thing seemed to be beckoning her, as if urging her to come closer. "Lily?" The whisper came again, but this time it was unmistakably closer. It was as though the figure was speaking directly into her ear. She could almost feel the cold breath of whatever it was brushing against her neck. Her body froze, her mind scrambling for any explanation, any way out. The figure moved slightly, its form blurring, before it suddenly darted toward her with unnatural speed. Panic surged through Miss Turner as she finally managed to tear her eyes away from the shadow. In that moment of distraction, she grabbed the door handle again with all her strength. It gave way this time, and she flung the door open, racing into the hallway. Her heart pounded in her chest as she ran, not daring to look back. The whispers followed her, fading just as the door slammed shut behind her. Outside, the storm had stopped, and the moon shone brightly through the windows, but she didn't stop to look. She ran straight for the nearest exit, leaving the school behind her. The next morning, Miss Turner didn't return to the school. Her colleagues spoke in hushed tones about her sudden disappearance. No one knew what had happened to her, but there was a growing belief among the teachers that the staff room had claimed yet another victim. Weeks later, a group of teachers decided to investigate. They found the staff room locked, as it always had been. But when they opened the door, the room was completely empty. The papers were gone. The shadow was gone. It was as though nothing had ever happened. Yet, the cold remained, and the whispers, those faint, terrifying whispers, still echoed in their minds. The staff room was sealed up and locked away, but the rumors persisted. And as for Miss Turner, her name faded from the school's records, like so many others before her. The room was no longer just a place for staff to rest. It was a reminder that some places hold on to their secrets, and sometimes they take those who seek them. The school remained standing, its walls hiding more than just the passage of time. And the staff room, it waited, silent, cold, and hungry for its next visitor. The end.